Hello, how are you? My name is Pinky Ghelani and you are watching Pinky TV. Welcome to What Women Want Online. This is the show where we host incredible people who share stories of hope, resilience, and excellence. We're filming at the Social House in Nairobi, Kenya, and these conversations are brought to you by SBM Bank and Safaricom. An ambitious and creative woman who has spent many years in the corporate world and decided to purposefully choose herself. A complete 360 in regards to her career is what has put her on the fashion map in Africa. A continuous journey in learning and bettering herself is something that she does meticulously. She is an entrepreneurial powerhouse who is a trained life coach with a passion for dance and fitness and a mum of two. She's my guest today, Wandia Gichuru.
Hello.
Hello. I love your pink mug, Wandia.
Oh, thank you.
Is that just
in your honor?
Yes, thank you. It's so nice to have you, Wandia. It's nice to have you here. Nice to talk to you. You're always so easy to talk to.
Really?
And you know, whenever we sit and have a conversation, it's like we've not missed a beat. Like we just pick up from the last conversation that we've had.
Well, I guess it's a dynamic, so...
Yeah, I think so.
It's cool.
I think so. I want to take something that I've heard you say. You say, eat bread and salt and speak the truth. I think it's something that your father used to say to you. I read up on that. But what does that mean? I'd love you to expound on that. I know for me it has a meaning, but what does it mean?
So apparently, and I don't really remember this, but he had that saying printed out onto a plaque and he had it on his desk at work. And it's a quote that my mother shared with him. I think it's Russian originally. And what it meant to him was, it doesn't matter how broke you are, integrity and honesty must come first. And so my dad was a civil servant and he worked in a part of the government where he was the person responsible for giving licenses for things. And so he was very often offered bribes and he never took them, as far as we know. If he did, we never saw the money, so who knows. But you know, he's like, it's fine, I'll be broke, but I'll sleep at night. I won't have this worry that someone has something over me because I've done something wrong. And this was in the 70s and the 80s, and I mean, we all know what an issue corruption is. So I mean, we were raised relatively simply. I mean, a very middle class kind of home, and you know, whenever we'd be like, oh, we'd like this, we'd like that, he's like, there's no money. Yeah.
I think it's amazing that when you have a role model who has whose conscience is very important. Like he had to have a clear conscience. He's done the right thing. What sort of an impact did that have on you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because I mean, he definitely was a great role model in that sense, but in other ways he wasn't. I mean, he was a heavy drinker.
Oh wow.
He was,
really?
Yeah. Like,
amazing. Okay.
He was at the bar more than he was at home.
Wow.
And he wasn't very emotionally present for my mother or for us. So, I mean, I think no one's perfect, you know, and so you'll learn some things by what someone does and some things by what they don't do, or what they did do that you don't want to do. And so I think now, I mean, you know, as you get older, you sort of wonder what has influenced you and how much is from your parents and how much happens when you're so young that you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been reading a lot about attachment styles, and I have a tendency to have quite an anxious attachment style. And the more I read about it, it's like these are things that happen. You know, you are influenced by what happened to you when you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't even remember. Like, I don't remember what my life was like then, when my parents, did they used to hug me a lot or not? Like, I don't really remember, but I know that I have certain tendencies. And apparently a lot of this is influenced from that very early stages, you know?
I know they say between 0 and 5. That's the most impact you can make on your child. So, you know, there's a lot more now, conscious parenting.
Yeah, but you're still going to mess up.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of pressure. I think there's no way that you can bring up a child without messing up.
Yeah, and I think actually you would be doing a disservice to your child if you even tried. I mean, I read something somewhere lately that made me very happy because it says the worst thing you could be is the perfect parent.
Yeah.
Because you're going to train your child to expect other people to be perfect, and they won't. And so if you raise a child to see, you know, when you mess up, if you can own that, if you can apologize to them and still love them and still be present for them, and I think they're less likely to be hugely disappointed when later in life other people mess up.
Yeah.
Because they've grown up knowing that no one's perfect.
There is something that that I saw on social media where it said normalize apologizing to your child. So you've just said that. Normalize apologizing to your child. And I think a lot of parents, maybe even our generation, our parents, didn't do that. Yeah. And you know, it could be just something as simple as that, where you just say, look, I'm doing my best and I'm sorry if I let you down, or I'm sorry if I lost my temper when I was not
present. Or, yeah. I mean, that's the hardest thing, is that you are who you are, and you live this life, and you go through good and bad days, and on a bad day you might go home and your kid comes running up to you to want to tell you something, and like you're so preoccupied by everything else, you just sort of snap an answer at them. And to be able to come back to them later and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I should have listened more. Or,
I think if we understand that our relationship with our children is a relationship, so treat it like how you would a friend, a husband, you know, your partner, whatever it is, it's a relationship. You know, if you're working with someone, that's a relationship. So how would you handle and make sure that...
And I think our kids are different than we were. I mean, our parents were a certain way, but we were also a certain way. And now I have teenage girls, so you can imagine the kind of conversations. I mean, half the time now, like, I'll walk in the room and I'll try and get into the conversation, but my questions are more serious or more boring. And I mean, half the time now, my 15-year-old will just roll her eyes and say, we were having so much fun until you came.
Until you walked in.
You know, and you just want to ask us about, how was the day? Did you do this? Did you do that? You know? And I'm like, okay, all right, let me figure out how to just get into the flow and talk silly and just have fun, because that's what they want to do.
I think becoming a parent, and if you're wise enough to see it, they really humble you. Our kids really humble us. Keeping on a personal note, you have a solid group of friends, and whenever I speak to you, I always bring this up because I think you're such a role model. I've seen your circle, I know them. I think, you know, you guys are always so steadfast, you're so strong in your relationship, you're always supporting one another. What would you say is key in keeping women friendships alive and allowing your friends to thrive without feeling jealous or insecure? You know, I do see that with women. You know, we're always sort of like, okay, she's winning, that means I'm not.
You know, I think it's human nature to compare. And I think, I mean, and again, I can only speak for my own experience, and yes, I'm fortunate to have the friendships I have. I think one of the things that has helped us over the years is that we keep it real. So, you know, if we're feeling like shit, we say it. If we are upset about something someone does. I mean, I'll give you an example. The other day, my neighbor, who is a really close friend, had people over and didn't invite me.
How dare she?
And I felt bad. And I think it was, you know, I was having a needy day and just wanting to, you know, feel like someone recognized me. But I said something to her. And it's a tough conversation to have. It wasn't like a nasty one, but I was sort of like, gosh. And she said, oh my God, it was an oversight. Don't be ridiculous. Come. But, you know, and we talked about it and it was over in a couple of minutes. I sort of put my tail between my legs and I went and I ended up having a really nice time. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of honesty and dealing with issues as they come up. So you're not hoarding these feelings inside you and then making assumptions, because I think one of the biggest mistakes we make generally when it comes to understanding other people is we fill in the blanks. You know, so you get triggered by something. And you're getting triggered because of a story you're telling yourself about, you know, gosh, I bet you she didn't invite me because she didn't want me here, or I don't know, whatever story I was saying. And that wasn't true. You don't know what somebody else is thinking or feeling or why they do what they do. So I think if you can have the conversation and have it in a safe way, so it's not
accusing,
an accusation or blame or criticism. It's just like, ouch, you know, I felt a bit bad. Did I misread something or whatever else? I think the other thing is that I don't have sisters. So for people who have sisters, not all sisters get along like a house on fire, but many of them do. I find often my friends who have sisters have very close relationships with their sisters, whereas I don't have a sister, and I have a number of friends who also don't have sisters. So I think in a way, we've sort of bonded and created a bit of a sisterhood type thing. So things that you typically would look to a family member to do. So I'm traveling, I need my kids to stay somewhere for a couple of days. When you don't have family that can do that, you need to build
relationships,
that kind of community where it's, you know, you hold each other up and you help out, you show up when, you know, something needs to be done. And it could be as simple as, you know, my dog isn't well and you know, I'm too far away to go pick them up. Could you mind? And so relationships take investing in. And I think that's the other thing is you don't take it for granted, even when you've been friends for 10 years.
Yes.
You know, you still have to make the effort.
Still have to, With any relationship.
With any relationship.
It goes back to that,
I mean, but I do think friendship is one of the purest because you're not as sensitive necessarily. There's still sensitivities, but you know, it's much easier in a friendship than with a dude. Yeah. Where you're gonna everything, you know, is sensitive.
Yes. There's a bit of, I think maybe with friendships, you let your guard down. You're completely you. Whereas maybe in a relationship, that
it's much more conditional in a relationship, in an intimate.
It's like there are too many expectations.
Yeah.
You once described your life purpose as, I am a loving light that wakes people up to their power. I find that really profound.
Where did you find that?
Yay, I found it.
You found that.
You said it, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm just wondering where you found it. But that's, yes.
Okay, so considering that you've also explained on this that people are making choices at every step, at every minute of their lives. We are consistently choosing who we are, who we're showing up as. But a lot of us are unaware that our choices are creating our reality. What would you say? Like, what choices did you make that brought you to this realization that you are a loving light that wakes people up to their power?
So that life purpose statement came out of an exercise that I did when I was training to be a life coach.
Okay.
And it was a really intense, I mean, now I listen to it and I think, whoa, you know.
It's been so profound.
Yeah, and it was a long process where you look at, you know, what drives you, what are your values, when are you most alive, what makes you feel, you know, at your best, at your highest, when are you contributing the most, and so through this long exercise, that is what came out. And I even remember the day it happened and having to stand up in front of a crowd and say it out loud and claim it, and I was crying. It felt way too big.
Wow.
And even now when I listen to it, I'm like, is it still, that was 10 years ago.
Okay.
And is it still really resonating with me? And in some ways it is. But I think back to your question around consciousness, like, are we aware of not just what we're choosing, but what are we thinking? Because our thoughts drive our choices, which drive our actions, which then change the world as we experience it. And I think just even being conscious of our thoughts is the first is a first step, you know. And not just your thoughts, but what you're feeling. And I think it's a journey, and it's still a journey that I'm on, but I'm becoming a lot more aware of when I'm triggered. And then asking, rather than just accepting it as that's how I am, that's how I'm feeling, that's my reality right now, I'm trying to step back and observe it. Because when you can step back from it, it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, that's what's going on, but do I have to allow it to fully take over?
Right.
Or can I sort of separate myself from what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling? Because there's a you that's observing your thought. I don't know if that makes sense.
It completely makes sense. I'm with you, Wandia. I completely.
So when you observe, you're stepping back into the you that's observing. That person, that part of you, isn't being impacted. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, and then you can disassociate a little bit, and you're less driven by it. I think the part of the life purpose statement that really resonated with me then and still does, it's recognizing that all of us hold that power.
Yes.
And that it's, you know, as much as everything around us is shifting and changing and not necessarily going the way you want it to, there's always something that you have power over, which is your own sort of way of responding and reacting to everything else that's around you. And I mean, one of the most profound books I ever read was Man's Search for Meaning, which was written by a man who, a psychologist who lived through the Holocaust. And one of his most famous quotations, and I'm not even going to remember it word for word, but it says, you know, between stimulus and action, there is a moment. Yeah. And in that moment, you get to choose. So we will always be stimulated, we'll always be triggered. But before we act, there's that split second or couple of seconds where we get to choose. And that's where our power is. It's in that moment. Yeah.
Now we know why you are who you are.
But you know, like I said, it's a journey, and it's one I mean, I still find myself reacting unconsciously. Yeah. Very often. Yeah. I mean, we all do. But it's like, it's a muscle that you build, and I think the more that you work on it, the easier it gets. Yeah. You know, to sort of just be a little bit more in
the moment.
In the moment, yeah.
Wow. I love getting in your mind. So, speaking of your mind, wherever you go, you are carrying your mind with you. Plenty of achievers are well known, super successful, but not many are happy. So when you say that, you know, we are choosing, how do we allow ourselves to be our true, absolute true selves? And then how do we find happiness if we can? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you know, look, it's something, again, that I struggle with all the time too, because I feel one of the big mistakes we make, and I make, is I'm waiting for the conditions to be happy. Mm-hmm. But I think it's always the other way around. It's sort of like, can you be happy with the conditions you have? And if you can, then it's more likely your conditions will improve. Do you see what I mean? It's not...
Then you're more accepting?
Yeah, I think if you're resisting your current reality, you're more likely to stay stuck. And if you're waiting for things to change to be happy,
you keep on
then
waiting.
You're less likely to become happy. Yeah. Because it's always, when are you ever going to get there? You know? So yeah, I am who I am. These are my circumstances. This is my condition. Can I be grateful in this moment? And if I can, I believe there's a lot more chance that things will improve. It's like anything. I mean, can you love your body the way it is now?
Yeah.
Yes, because that is who you are. That is your body. Does that mean you can't work out and make it better? Of course you can. Yeah. But right now in this moment, this is my body. This is, You know, so I don't think happiness is, I don't think happiness should, and I don't even like using the word should, but I don't think it should be conditional on needing all these different things to fall into place, because you have no control over 90% of
Everything.
Of those things that are happening to you. And there's been amazing studies done on people who have, you know, gone through accidents where they've lost, you know, they become paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah.
And if you ask any of us, like, could we be happy in a life where we couldn't move from our neck down? And we'd be like, oh my God, I can't imagine it. It would be horrible. It would be the hardest thing. And yet most people who find themselves in those circumstances within a relatively short period of time are as happy as everybody else.
Yes.
Because they just learn to live with their reality and make the best of what they have, you know, and they're able to be in some ways even happier.
Yeah.
And then you look at the opposite. You look at people who win lotteries and, you know, suddenly find themselves being billionaires, and they're no less, I mean, they're no more happy than they were when they were broke. And so I think, it's
a mindset.
It's a mindset, yeah.
So when you started out on your company, Vivo, someone who'd always been in the comfort of being employed, and by this, of course, I mean salary every month, good life. Now you had this idea for this company.
Yeah.
And you shifted. There's a mindset that happens. You know, we're talking about mindset. Oh, there's an internal dialogue that maybe tried to talk you out of taking this step. Just talk us through that process and how you pushed through and said, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to win.
So I rarely have that dialogue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm someone who jumps into things. I dive in the deep end and then...
So you don't think?
I don't think that hard. I mean, I probably should think more. I think I've made more... There are more situations where I should have acted a little slower and thought a little longer. But I don't suffer the problem that you describe. I don't even want to call it a problem, but, you know, the tendency to really worry about something long and hard before you do it.
Yeah.
That's not my problem. I think it should be, though. Maybe it should be.
But, you know, a lot of people, I mean, they say, Richard Branson wrote a book saying, screw it, just do it.
Yeah. So I do things, and it drives people crazy. So even at work now, I'll be, oh my God, I've got an idea, let's do this. And then I'll turn everybody's energy to focus on this thing. And then a few weeks later, I'll be like, nah, actually, you know what? It's not working. Let's try something else. And I think for some people, that's really hard. But on the other hand, in a fast-changing world where opportunities come and go, I jump where I can. And I make mistakes. And I've made some costly mistakes with that. So I'm not suggesting that that's always the best way to do it. But so when we started Vivo, it was kind of, I think there was a lot of naivety around it, which again, you know, when I look back now, I think, oh my God, we had no clue, like what it takes and what it takes to be, you know, to win or to be successful. And even now, there are many things that we're trying to do that I'm not sure that we really understand what we're getting our hands into, but we'll figure it out, you know. So I've always been that kind of 80-20, like it doesn't have to be perfect. Because you don't even know what perfect looks like. You will only start to know when it's out there and when people start giving you feedback and the market starts responding. And then you just keep pivoting to try and, you know, accommodate what people want. Yeah.
That's amazing. I really, now we understand where, you know, what
I would beg to suggest that you're not too different. Like you know, you're constantly coming up with ideas and creating new shows and reinventing who you are.
And I always question, am I doing this the wrong way?
But you're doing it. And then that's the difference. Like, I think, honestly, if there's one thing, I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and younger people in particular. And if there's one piece of advice that I give constantly, I'm like, act. I have such a bias for action. Like, I like ideas, but I'm like, until ideas turn into something that you can implement, and even if it's just a pilot, even if it's just a prototype, test it. Don't come and sit and have long conversations with people talking about something. If you know, make it real. Bring a sample. You know, show me, do a pilot show, you know? Film a clip, if that's what you want to do. If you're talking about having a blog, do a dummy session, but make it tangible.
And that was actually going to be my next question. A lot of people, you know, who are watching are millennials. And so you say you talk to a lot of younger people, and now everything is digital. You've gone digital, you know, like you've just jumped on that bandwagon, being in our 40s and our 50s. I wouldn't say who's who. But, you know, what would you say to people in our generation as well about waking up to the fact that things are going digital, and if you need to be visible, maybe something to think about, jumping on this bandwagon of being digital?
Yeah, I mean, my mother's 82.
Wow.
And she's on Facebook.
I love it.
On WhatsApp, and, you know, downloads her movies and, you know, watch. I mean, it's the world. So are there really people out there who don't get that yet?
Yeah,
really?
I mean, especially this generation, which we belong to, is like there is still a struggle. I don't want to be so visible. I don't want to be seen. But, you know, there is a difference between putting your personal life online and putting your brand online.
Look, I hear you, but I also think that the reality is, if you're putting yourself out there, even if it's your brand and even if it's, you know, professional, there are going to be people who will have stuff to say. And there will be some blurry lines. I've struggled with with some of that myself, but I think you don't have to necessarily put yourself. But if you have a service, if you have a product, if you have a company, that has to be digital. You've got to put digital at the heart of what you're offering, even if it's in an area, and I think we've seen this now with medical, you know, doctors being able to give them their consultations online. Gym private gym instructors or private personal trainers who are training over Zoom, or I think what's been fascinating is to see products and services that you never imagined. You
never thought.
You thought you'd have to be physically sitting with somebody or in front of somebody to have that. It's not true. I mean, with technology now, you can probably zoom in closer to look at somebody's, you know, rash on a camera than you could with your naked eye. And so, I'm going with the flow on this whole digital thing. I mean, in some ways, I find it more efficient, like, you know, having remote team meetings. I mean, you can be anywhere.
Even online learning.
Online learning, I'm still struggling a bit with, only because my kids have not been forced to put their videos on. And I'm struggling with that one, because I feel that the teacher needs to see you. To see whether you're engaging or paying attention.
There's a difference there.
When I have my team meetings, the videos are on all the time.
Yeah, that's important, because we still need that. As much as we're going digital, you still need some form of engagement, eye contact, to know that you're not just talking to a screen. A robot. So when you have such a fantastic brand, then of course there's the word of mouth. There's a way to market yourself and communicate what your brand is and how you get the word across. What has worked for you? We were talking about this earlier. What has worked for you in regards to making sure that the marketing aspect of your brand cuts across easily, swiftly, with impact, and clearly? Because whenever I see your communication, I know exactly what you're trying to communicate. Not a lot of people get that. And does that
Okay.
come from you, or do you have somebody? Do you have a marketing guru?
So we have a whole team in-house. So we still work on a tight budget. We create our own content. So we have a studio. We have an in-house stylist, photographer, videographer, a whole team, which I guess has helped with the consistency. I think sometimes, maybe it starts to always look the same, so you've got to worry about that if you're doing it in-house. But I think our product is pretty simple. It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
And it's the clothes are pretty, so it's easy to create content that looks nice.
Yeah.
We try and work with people who look like us.
Yeah.
People that your everyday.
Yeah.
Because you should be able to relate. You should look at something and say, "Oh, I could definitely wear that."
Yeah.
Or that lady's body looks kind of
Like
similar
mine.
to mine.
Yeah.
She looks like she's sort of the same weight. Maybe she's the same age. So we try and make it very relatable because that's who we want to be. But I think right from the beginning, because of a tight budget, we've always relied heavily on social media, and that has continued to work for us. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question right, but we, in a fashion space, in a beauty accessory space, imaging is everything.
Yeah.
So you don't even need necessarily to, of course it helps to have witty captions and all of that stuff, but I think a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Okay.
So we rely a lot on just
visual.
on visual content. Yeah.
What honor have you received in the past that you're very proud of?
Oh,
many?
No, not really.
So many.
2018 was a good year for awards and things like that.
Yeah.
So we entered into the top 100 medium-sized business awards, and Vivo came second overall against all other industries and stuff like that.
That's
and we
amazing.
also were awarded the top retail award, and I got the top female CEO. So that was great. We didn't apply again because I'm like, where do you go from that? Like,
yeah.
There's only like one slot from number 2
Yes.
to number 1. So we're happy to stay there. I don't enter a lot of these different award things. I think for me, I am as happy when I get a message from a client who says, wow, I went into your stores the other day and I loved the products. I had a great service from your team.
Yeah.
The atmosphere was cool. The pricing was great. To me, that's as good as getting a big award. Yeah.
And it's true. You've really managed to do that well with your team, because even whenever I walk into your stores, it's just, first of all, it's aesthetic, it's nice, it's pleasurable. When I'm in there, they're like, I need yoga pants, and they'll take out all the yoga
Whatever
pants.
they can find.
They'll do like this and this and this, and I think that.
But there's still days and moments where it may not go that well, and I think what we try to do is, first of all, we're so grateful when someone tells us when it hasn't gone well.
Okay.
Because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
The easiest thing to do, and I'm guilty of that, when I go somewhere and I have a bad experience, I rarely take the time. I'm just so fed up. I'm just like, I'm just not going to come back here again. And the next time someone mentions that place, I'll be like, really?
Yeah.
So I'll be the, whereas what you really should, what's great is if you take the time and you say, I was unhappy.
Yeah.
This didn't work well for me. One of your ladies said they would call me because the dress I wanted wasn't there, but they were going to find it, and I've waited a week and no one has called me. And I'm just like, my first thing is thank you for letting us know. And secondly, what do we take from that? First of all, how do we sort out that client as quickly as possible? But also, what do we look at in terms of what was missing in our systems? How did that fall through the hole, fall through the gaps? And how do we prevent that from happening again? So if you take a mistake or a bad experience and unpack it, I'm always like, okay, let's break that up. Let's figure out. And it's not about blame. It's not like you messed up. It's like how there's something that's not working.
Yeah.
And how do we, and that happens all the time. but then there's always an opportunity to learn and improve.
I always say I look for the constructive criticism, because there are critics, and then there's, you know, just haters.
Yeah, but even the haters may have a point.
They
you know
help.
what I mean? It's like, look for the truth within the hate. Like,
Yeah. Also, I guess, yeah.
There's some. I mean, there may be some crazy people out there who
Yeah.
have nothing. You know, there's nothing. But I mean, I had a bad experience, you know, a year ago with a blogger who went nasty on us. And I mean, even with all the hate, I was like, guys, let's look for the 5%.
Wow.
Let's look, there may be something true that is worth listening to.
You have some thick skin.
It hasn't happened that often. I think if it was all the time, I probably would just curl into a corner and go to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow, Wandia, it's so nice to get into your mind, to learn more about you, to see how you tick. And I thank you for sharing, because, you know, I'm sure there's so many people who are watching who've learned so much from you.
I hope so.
I think so. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you are on my Facebook, make sure you leave a comment. And if you're not a fan of queues or paperwork, then I would suggest that you sign up in 4 easy ways and enjoy more value on calls, data, and SMS. All you have to do is head to the Safaricom app and click on Post-Pay Plans. Thank you so much for watching. SBM, by the way, have brought these conversations to you, and they're always thinking of you, their client, through workplace banking. SBM has made unsecured, accessible loans for all its clients. For your chance to win, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and comment on the video either here on YouTube or on Facebook. And Safaricom could make you a winner of a brand new phone. Wandia and I would love to hear from you. So make sure you comment and you tell us what you think of Wandia's ways of being in the moment, of taking 5% even from your haters if they may say something that's sometimes not nice, not fun. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for
Wandia.
everything you're doing as well.
Thank
and
you.
for bringing these conversations to life.
Yeah, no, I love having these conversations. And on this show, we do have conversations that aim to inspire, and we hope that it causes you to take a deep dive within yourself and find out who you are. Real power is always internal. Real power is self-love. Real power is from your core, and real power comes from authenticity. There's nothing like showing up as your authentic self. Make sure you find that person and show up as that person every day. The world will thank you for doing just that. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.